So hello everybody, I'm Tracey O'Keefe. I work at Devon Training Hub. I don't know if anybody knows what Devon Training Hub is, first of all, do you? Not sure. So what I'll do is I'll go through the fellowship bit, and then we have got a very small PowerPoint. I didn't put it together, I haven't even really looked at it properly, just about Devon Training Hub, but I'll save it. If we have time, fine. If not, we can share it with you and you can share it with them if you want. That's probably the best thing. So I'm a nurse by background, just so you know who I am, and I've been doing this far too long, I think, actually. That's what I've decided. I tried to retire in April and failed, and I'm working harder than I ever have, so that's me. So good luck to you all when you get to that point, try and retire, do a better job than I did. So I'm just going to take a little bit of time just to share with you really about the New to Practice Fellowship in Devon and what we've been doing with it. I've got a short presentation, only, you know, please jump in with questions if anybody's got any or whatever you want to do. It's just I thought a few visuals might help. So let me just get that on the screen for you now. Can you all see that? Is that all right? Yeah, cool. Okay. So I'm going to sort of assume you don't know very much, but I'm sorry if I'm patronising. It's probably the best way forward. But it's for GPs and nurses, and we were just talking about the fact that it is for people who are within about 18 months of qualifying, and for nurses that means newly qualified nurses. For GPs that's newly qualified GPs. So there's a little bit of discrepancy there, and you have to be a salaried GP. Those are the basic two criteria. We're trying not to limit it further than that, really, because that is what HE have said. Obviously, maternity leave has impacted that. So some people will have been qualified longer, but they've had a little gap, and that's allowed as well. There's been all sort of questions that pop up. So can you see that? Your face is in the way, and I never know with this. I'll pull that down. Is that all right? Can you all see? Yeah. So essentially, HEE set out this sort of national construct of how it should look, and this is the three things that they said need to go in it: support and networking, learning and development, portfolio working. And these are the sort of headings that they put in here, and we've sort of tried to follow this as closely as we can, but doing our own thing as well, and doing it creatively. What it essentially equates to is a 2-year program, and it is 4 hours and 10 minutes a week that you are paid. That 10 minutes is very, very important. That's your coffee break. So 4 hours and 10 minutes a week. And when I first mapped all this out, liaised with the CCG and everything, we had it really, really rigid, and we had it all sort of, you know, literally week by week mapped out. And what we very soon came to realise is that's just not going to work quite like that. So we've tried to do it slightly more fluid on the basis that, I'll just go to the next slide, so that we can balance this service need with individual needs. So the way we're mapping it is we're going to have, and what we're doing with the first cohort is like 3 to 4 whole cohort meets. So the reason behind this is to try and get a sense of identity as a cohort. And I've been a fellow twice in my life, and once I was an HE fellow and I sort of drifted along drinking a lot of coffee and working on a project, and it was lovely, but I didn't feel I was really a fellow, I was just doing a job. And the second time I was a Darcy fellow in London, and we were a cohort of 60, and it was just the most amazing experience because we had that absolute bond as a group. I'm still in touch with a lot of them. So really, really keen to develop that. So we've developed this sort of 3 to 4 Thursdays a year. Thursdays evolved because everybody said it was a good day, where the current cohort are meeting in the mornings, and our second cohort, when it starts, will meet on Thursday afternoons. And this is to bring everybody together, have some key speakers, get to know each other, just have that sense of bonding. And then we have small splinter groups based on special interests, where people have put forward what they're interested in, maybe as a project or developing new skills and experience. And we identify them through one-to-one. So I have a one-to-one with every fellow before we actually get that first launch event, and get people into groups loosely based on where I think they'll work well together. And that is fluid, that can move. And what we are finding is people are jumping. And then there's also action learning sets. So for those of you who've never heard of that, they are a bit like peer coaching is the way I would phrase it. It's quite rigid in the way it is done, but I think it has huge value. There's a facilitator, a presenter each time. And what we're doing is, again, we've put people into those groups. The beauty of COVID is we've all learnt Zoom very well. So geographically, it means people can be spread apart, which is quite nice, but still work together. And you basically present an issue that you want to discuss, and through a set format, the group will help you explore possibilities about how to address that or how to move forward with it. We've run one set of those so far, and there's more coming up very soon. And we've tried to link these days to people's availability, which was like some awful jigsaw that I never want to go to again. But anyway, it seems to have worked, moving everybody around all over the place and getting people on days that match childcare, clinics, I don't know, husband's work, dog walking, whatever else. We also have some structured learning virtually, and that fits into the special interest groups, into those Thursdays. But what we didn't want to do is make it completely sort of prescribed. So what we have done instead is we have allowed this self-directed time. This will involve people shadowing other people, working on their projects, accessing the coaching and the mentoring sessions. I'll talk about them in a bit more detail in a minute. And just doing what they need to do in order to make sure they're meeting their individual needs and the service needs. And we have huge variations in this. We've also created WhatsApp groups. So we have a general cohort WhatsApp group. We have a WhatsApp group for each action learning set. We have a WhatsApp group for each interest group. I'll tell you, the first 3 weeks, it was like WhatsApp ping city. It was going crazy. And they've been really, really good with people adding things, adding links, sharing stuff. So that's worked really well, I think. And it's a good way of just communicating quickly without having email bombardment. So that was one of our biggest challenges, was the timetable, and that's really how we've done it. Growth opportunities, we try to be really creative to make sure that we're touching on everything HE says we have to do, but not so rigidly that we are just going to pin people into boxes. Devon-wide approach is a massive thing, because what we found, again, as I hinted to a minute ago, is that people from Exeter are talking to people from Plymouth to Barnstable and saying, oh, how do you do that? I didn't know that happened up there. And that's been really, really powerful, even now in the early days. And I've got fellows who are saying, oh, could I come and shadow you and work with you for a little while and see what you do there, because we don't currently do that. We are encouraging people to write up or plan to write up projects for publication, for presentation, maybe wrap a small research project around it. Some of them look quite scared at the thought, but some look quite excited. So I think that's something we need to just push and shove all the time, because I think it's a waste of 2 years hard work if you don't do something with it afterwards. And we've also created, that's further down. Yeah, we just want people to gather all this documentation together so that you don't get to the end and say, so I was a fellow for 2 years. And part of that is creating this portfolio as a safety net. So each fellow has their own portfolio where they can upload all their dates, their reflections, people they've shadowed, what they learned from that, project milestones, anything they want to put in it. And we've now got a OneDrive system set up so that each fellow has their own little space with their portfolio in it. So we can update their portfolio, they can update their portfolio, but no one else can see it. And then there's resources sections on that OneDrive for each of the interest groups, the action learning sets, etc. Regular catch-ups, obviously, and just what I've already mentioned, this flexibility and adaptability. We see this as a dynamic thing. So if things aren't working, we will change it. And that's really important. So this next slide is a bit busy, and I can't say it's exactly as it is, because I just said it's dynamic, and I'm just looking at this last night and thinking we've probably tweaked a few things already. But we've set it into 4 stages, so each stage is 6 months, and you'll see it's colour-coded according to the HEE sort of things they talk about, like right from that first slide about support and networking, learning development, PCM portfolio working. And we've tried to box these into places so people can sort of have a guide about how they should progress. So the first bit, just about understanding, your strengths, getting to know general practice, finding your feet, is about making sure you have a good induction, you've got a PDP, you're in the appraisal system, you've got a supervisor in practice. So we ask everybody to have a go-to person. They will get an assigned mentor. We're slightly behind the track on that just because of various politics with a small p, but we're getting there. So they will have a GP mentor. So that will be assigned, and also they'll be assigned a coach, which our fellows are getting in the next week or two. We have our action learning set up, we have interest groups set up. So this is this first sort of 6 months getting going, really, and trying to think about what's your project, where do you want to go and do some extra work, shadow somebody, etc. And then this is really just a stage. I'm not going to read every bit out, but pushing people through. So trying to get people to make sure they're ticking the boxes off as they go. There's another, I've taken that, it was about 4 or 5 slides on this further down, which I've taken out, but just detailing all the learning outcomes for each section as well, which we send to the fellows. So coaching sessions are going to start very shortly for them. Some people are already booking shadowing opportunities. I'll give you an example. So got someone interested in dermatology. They're aware that the person who's doing it currently is going to retire shortly. So they're trying to make sure they have time separate to clinics to shadow them, to build up their experience. They're going to do a diploma in dermatology. And they're in the dermatology interest groups. There's loads of banter going off there about, have you seen this resource? Have you seen this one? So that's where they're going to focus their sort of main emphasis. I've got other people who are more broad, just like I'm aiming to be a partner. This is what I want to do. I'm really interested in systems and processes and streamlining workflow and utilising other staff. So they're in like a quality improvement group, looking at things like that, maybe going to shadow other practices that do things slightly differently, GPs who maybe have lists, other GPs who don't have lists. What does that really mean in terms of time? Looking at things like that. So I hope this sort of slide makes sense. I've just put that portfolio working commences in different places. We're not pinning people down, but we're trying to encourage them to do things in that format. And that's all I'm going to say here. That's me and that's Sam. And then really I just wanted to answer any questions anybody had. So I hope that's helped a little bit, just to visualise something. Let me just get out of this. My mouse is misbehaving. There you go.
Thank you, Tracey. I think it's really helpful for everyone thinking about applying for it. I guess it would be useful for people to know a little bit more about how they would go about applying, and whether that's something that's just done centrally or whether they've talked to their practice about it. What's all the practical aspects?
Yeah, so I think I would say the first thing definitely is the criteria, as I've said, is that you obviously can't be qualified forever and you have to be a salaried GP. And essentially those are the 2 main criteria. The first thing I always say to people is speak to your practice manager, because you need them on board, and it helps you think about what you're going to do with that fellowship time, because it should be developing you and it should be doing something useful for general practice and primary care. Whether that's your practice, your PCN, the whole of Devon, the whole of primary care forever across the world, whatever your ambitions are, but it should be useful both ways. So I would say speak to your practice manager first, if you're in that position. By all means, register an interest with myself or Sam, who the contacts are on this thing now, and we've got a database that we're just gathering of people who are wanting to do it at some point. And if you just put in an email, I would be looking for 6 months from now, a year from now, whenever, we can just keep you posted about when next cohorts are running and sort of any closing. I think other than that, it's just ask questions as much as you want. We welcome any inquiries. I can send a more detailed PowerPoint if you want.
Yeah, I think that would be good, and certainly with the contacts and things, that'd be good if you could send it to me, Tracey. We can circulate those bits. Guys, if anybody's got a question, feel free to jump in or put it on the chat and we can sort of help facilitate it. But I thought of a few more things as well while you were talking, because I'm an ST4, so I'm in the position that I'll be finishing soon and looking for this sort of thing. In terms of the portfolio, obviously we've had lots of experience of doing portfolio things over the last few years. How rigid is it in terms of what you have to fill in and what requirements there are of you within the time that you're doing it? Or is it more of just a case of something to be able to evidence what you've done?
It is exactly the latter. So, there is no, HEE have not said they must do X, Y, and Z and we must have evidence of everything. However, I was really keen that people don't get to the end of 2 years and go, oh, where did that go? What happened? Because there's a real danger of that. There is a real danger of that. So we've created this document, which is basically, there's a section on coaching, on mentoring, on action learning sets, on reflection, and we are basically encouraging people to do it. We're not going to mark it or, tick box it or anything.
You can't finish it unless you've done X, Y, Z.
No, and there's a calendar in it, and we weren't going to put a calendar in it, but one of the fellows actually said, is anybody going to force me to show them, how many hours I've done and when? I said, well, I don't know. You tell me, what's your practice like? And they said, well, they might. I said, well, we'll give you a calendar then. So they are actively populating their calendar with like 2 hours of reflection, 2 hours of shadowing, so they have absolute concrete evidence of what they've done. One interesting thing you say about portfolios, because we're encouraging them to do reflection, and when I did a talk on reflection, you should have seen the faces. It was like, don't make me do this ever again. Had this rammed down my throat and I never want to reflect on anything other than in my head, leave me alone. But yesterday, I ran the first reflection room. So we have open reflection rooms that have just started, and they're voluntary. So they're not mandatory. People can rock up if they want to. And 5 turned up yesterday. So I asked them, what are you all here for? Why are you here? And they go, just wasn't really sure what it was, so thought I'd come along and see what's going to happen. So we started chatting generally about things, and there was a little bit of what I call whinging, moaning, not entirely productive type stuff. And I said, I'm just going to be a bully. I'm just going to tell you to take 15 minutes on your own and write a reflection on the things you've all been whinging and moaning about. So they all went, oh, and they all went off and did it, and we came back again. And unanimously, it was like, that was quite amazing just to have that space to do that and be forced to do it. So, and I said to them, will you come back, or have I scared you never to come back in one of these rooms again? And they said, no, we're all coming back, definitely coming back. But it's about, like, it doesn't have to be referenced. It doesn't have to be double spaced or done in a certain format. It's for you to do that's useful for you, because that's what this should be about.
Thank you.
We've got Daisy with us. Oh, sorry, Liv, do you want to?
I was just going to say, when you were talking about you have like a mentor and a coach and stuff, how does that actually work? Is that like external people, or is that someone in your practice that gets involved?
You have, you have so much support. It's absolutely ridiculous, I think. But anyway, I think it confuses people. So we suggest you have a go-to person in your practice, which is someone that you can, as a new GP, say, can I just ask you, how do I do this? Catches up with you regularly. And regularly could be 10 minutes every week. It could be, some people are doing like 45 minutes, every 3 or 4 weeks, cup of coffee, sit down, chat through things, or it could be just ad hoc. Then you have a GP mentor, which will be someone clinically useful to you. That sounds a bit, odd, but they will be a GP and they will not be in your practice. So quite good to go and talk about things confidentially. Then you will have a coach who may or may not be a GP. So what we're trying to do, and you'll have your action learning sets, which is your sort of peer coaching. So it's about targeting how you use those moments. So the one in your practice is ad hoc, small regular meetings, what I call the real, geographically close to you issues you need to resolve now. Your GP mentor, I would save your issues for things that are really clinically related, that you need to speak to somebody who knows what you're talking about clinically to resolve it or to explore it. And your coaching, I think, is really open. So you could talk about, I don't know how to finalise my project. I've got a problem with someone in the practice I really don't get on with. I don't know what to do after this. I don't even know if I want to be a GP anymore. Whatever else you want to talk about. And the coaching, you have 12 sessions over 2 years. And they are complete. I won't even know who they are. That's not for us to know as a team. So the LMC are organising that for us, and they're allocating people. And some people are going to access them very quickly, get some underway, and then save some for the end. Some people, I think, will wait and say, I'd rather just have another 2 or 3 months until I get going with coaching. So yeah, huge amount of support. Ridiculous amount, really, but it's great.
I'm a GP education lead at Devon Training Hub. There are 4 of us. And I guess if I've got probably 4 minutes left, I'd like to say I'm working with Tracey on the New to Practice Fellowship. So I'm a bit of kind of GP input into that. And I'm working on a whole host of other projects as well to help them develop their strategy and deliver sort of education for primary care in Devon. And I can either answer questions about the fellowship, if you want me to, anything you want to know about that, or I've got like 3 slides on what on earth is Devon Training Hub and is it relevant to me when I qualify, which I'm also very happy to do. It might be the only chance I get to tell you because I think we're all about to finish.
Yeah, I mentioned that, Daisy. I said we could send that to them otherwise, couldn't we? That one if we run out of time. That PowerPoint.
It won't take very long at all. It's a kind of an overview of the organisation, really, so you know what it is before you finish. Shall I do that? What do you think? Yeah? Okay, fine. The only thing I wanted to add to what Tracey said is the mentorship. Everybody who has a mentor, there's actually, they're going to be accredited, so they're going to be fully trained. They're undergoing a training sort of programme at the moment, and there's going to be a lot of them all around Devon, GPs who've done quite a lot of training to become these accredited mentors, and then they're going to be your support for your kind of clinical direction, I guess, which is really great because the funding for that has only just come through to the system.
I have got it on my screen if you want, Daisy.
Oh, have you? Could you pop it on? Thank you. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a sleepy day. I'm also, I should guess, so who am I? Yeah, I'm a partner in Clumpton as well. So I'm a 2-day-a-week partner in Clumpton. I do a bit of teaching in the medical school, and yeah, I work with the Training Hub, and I've done a little bit in social prescribing. So I'm a bit all over the place, really. But yeah, really interested in sort of development, education, that kind of thing. I also helped to develop the ST4 programme before it relaunched. So, and I know it's coming to an end. So, hi, Hannah. Yeah, could you share your screen, Tracey? And I'll just
get you back. You just disappeared into a corner of my screen. Really beautiful. Hold on. Yay, there you're back. Hold on. Right. I think that's it. Yeah.
Thank you. So I just wanted to take 2 minutes to talk to you about, because the fellowship offer is really, really relevant to you. And I just would encourage everybody to apply. Drop an email to Tracey and say, I'm interested, because even if you don't end up taking it up, we actually need your expressions of interest in order to make sure we can hold it next year. So I just think it's a fantastic programme and I want everyone to apply. This is just to put it in the context of what Devon Training Hub is and what it can offer GPs in particular, but also how it fits into the rest of the system. It's being a bit rebranded at the moment. They've done lots of different things over the years, but there's a real push now to try and link it to what's happening on a wider basis. And all these new models of care and new roles, and some of you will be working in practice, whether it's paramedics and social prescribers and everything. So it's designing itself as a sort of go-to development hub for primary and social care. So not just for healthcare, but for social care as well. Because as you may know, we're forming into, and I'm not Catherine Bart, I'm Daisy Robinson. Sorry, that's Catherine, who's presented it to another one. She's one of the other GP leads. And working really closely with the ICO, Integrated Care Organisation, to try and deliver kind of system level education and workforce transformation. And because you're the GP partners and salary GPs of the future, I think you all have a role to play in that. Can you go on to the next slide, please, Tracey? Oh. It hasn't projected very well. I'm so sorry, guys. I don't normally do italic slides. I have no idea why it's come up like this, Tracey. I can barely read it. So the buzzwords of the hub are about enabling access, this is about enabling, so it's about we're trying to get lots of people to come into healthcare who might not have considered it as a career, developing leadership throughout the system, adding breadth and depth and development opportunities. It all sounds very buzzwordy, doesn't it? Integrating the system and supporting the system. So at different points, an example of that is the New to Practice Fellowship offer, because that's supporting a particular cohort, which is you guys as you qualify. Can I have the next slide, please? And I've got no idea what it's going to look like. Right. So it hasn't always been seen as something that's relevant to GPs. I will say that, but it's trying now to be, and I think this fellowship program will essentially really help that process, because it's such a wonderful offer and everyone has given such great feedback so far. But the idea is that you come to the website, or you come along, you get the newsletter, or you contact one of the GP education leads in your locality to find out what the offer is for you. It's definitely trying to promote multidisciplinary learning, and I know that that's also a bit of a buzzword, and that you guys have done all your training just as GPs. But for instance, you will find that as you qualify and as you move into your jobs, I'm sure there's going to be situations where people in your PCNs will be setting up sort of multi-professional learning groups. John is very passionate about that, I know, and may have talked to you about that already, I don't know. Or you might be working in those situations already, but I think the Hub is really keen to promote that as well. Breadth and depth exactly through the fellowships. So it's not just your fellowships, but also other fellowships for people at different stages of their career. So we've got GP Health Inequality Fellows doing projects around health inequalities, Population Health Fellows doing projects around population health. We're about to advertise for some GP Educator Fellows, so GP trainers coming into work closely with the Training Hub as well. It's going to offer mandatory training, it already does. And if you join as a member, I've been told to tell you, £30 a year, you then get all your courses half the price. And so we're really hoping that GPs want to do that. Next slide, please. So I don't know, does everyone know about the first 5 sessions? John, have you mentioned that to everybody? The monthly facilitated first 5 small groups? Yes, you're nodding. You've nodded. Okay, so I think that's funded. That's a psychologist in practice, and having benefited from that myself, I would just highly recommend it. It's one of the really, really good offers from the Hub. And it very much complements the fellowship. It's designed to be more about the emotional impact of the work and a chance to talk about that in a safe space. We are advertising for Health Inequalities Fellows now, which may seem like a bit much on top of being a New to Practice Fellow. It's a separate pot of funding. It's 1 session a week if you're particularly passionate about that, and you're have your job sorted and you're joining up to be something, and 1 session a week and you fancy doing something else, then look into that. And as I said, these multidisciplinary educator fellows are coming online, so you may find there's a GP trainer in your area who's suddenly working very closely with the Hub as well. You can get Blue Stream training and safeguarding training, and people might have heard about the Red Whale update, which is a whole day course funded by the Hub. Previously, I think it was cheap for you guys, but it was 150 for everyone else. There's a lot of work around work experience and developing people who might not consider a career in healthcare. So you know, not so relevant to you, but there's definitely going to be developed. It's going to develop into a space where you can get support with your career as well. And that's for everyone. So we're trying to offer that to nurses and to HCAs and to social prescribing lead workers, and to everyone, I guess. Next slide. I've got 1 minute to say, what do you think of us and what do you want from us? Poison chalice, but can I ask that question, John? Can everyone put it in the chat what they want or what they think, or shout it out? Because I know you've got this amazing fellowship offer, which is brilliant, but it goes much bigger than that. You're going to be GPs for a long time. What do you want the training hub? You know, we're 4 education leads. We're here. We're funded 1 session a week. We want to do what you guys want and what you guys think is necessary in the system.
Problem is, Daisy, it takes more than a minute for me to come up with a fully formed question. So, can we?
Fully formed answer. Could. Point of access for support network, simplified point of access to help. Brilliant. It's coming. We're developing a website page which will be all about everything that can support you. So that's coming down the line. If there's anything particular you want to see on that web page, tell me, email me. We're going to try and sort of make it a bit of a blend of what the LMC says, what the CCG says, you know, everything that's relevant to your support and development and your education. So that's coming down the line. Anything else? Or do you want people then they can put it in the chat, can't they, John, or email me? Or
great.
Thanks.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry, that's not my email.
Inundating Catherine with questions.
If you email Catherine, though, that's fine, because she's also one of the GP education leads, and I'm about to go on sabbatical and I'm going to be in a camper van for 6 weeks. So you might as well email Catherine, because
email the training hub as well. Feel free to do that, because they will just forward it to the right person.
Exactly.
Don't worry about that.